The balloons were sagging before noon, and the cupcakes tasted like they came from a vending machine in 1997. Rydell Components called it Appreciation Day, which meant lukewarm seltzer and forced clapping, while HR wheeled coolers through the lobby like we were cattle they forgot to feed. I walked to my cubicle and saw it, sitting dead center on my desk. A black box. No ribbon, no label, no logo. Just a hard-edged, matte-finish thing about the size of a paperback. The kind of item that doesn't pretend to be a gift. My name wasn't on a card. It was etched in the plastic, tiny, almost invisible, unless you caught it under the fluorescence. My full name, employee ID, and one timestamp, 2:06 a.m. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. That time wasn't random. I'm 56 years old. My name's Ron Teller. I live in Dayton, Ohio, and I've been with Rydell longer than most of the execs who sign off on the ethics memos. I don't code. I don't sell. I work in operations, scheduling, compliance, document control, paper trails that keep us out of lawsuits. About a month ago, I found a personnel file revision I never signed, buried inside our system with a fresh timestamp. 2:06 a.m., same time. Since then, I'd been printing every HR change notice as a PDF, time-stamping it in the mailroom, photographing it next to the wall clock and a paper calendar. Redundant? Sure. But sometimes redundancy is how you stay employed, or how you leave with your record intact. I didn't open the box, I documented it, top, bottom, each side, clear photos. Then I placed it in a manila envelope and walked it to records. Had Daisy at the front desk timestamped the outside, then I logged it as a received item with unverified origin. Back at my desk, I sent one plain email. Unusual item received, requesting immediate review. No fluff. CC'd legal, internal audit, and the compliance contact from our handbook. 10 minutes later, Russell Kane, our CEO with the haircut of a senator and the nerves of a deer, showed up in my doorway holding a printout. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice tight. I didn't answer. Just turned my monitor so he could see the folder I labeled Ledger Chain. Inside, badge logs, mailroom receipts, HR file comparisons, and a full print queue history. He didn't sit, didn't blink, just stared at the box like it might explode. That's when I knew it wasn't a gift. It was bait. Someone expected me to pull the trigger on myself. I logged the box and filed the receipt. Then I got back to work. 3 Fridays before the black box showed up. I was finishing a late carrier schedule and needed an older file for a customs reference. I pulled up my performance folder and noticed something off. The summary at the top had a new watermark. Finalized, that was new, and I hadn't signed anything since March. I checked the printer logs. Our ops network doesn't have fancy tracing tools, but the HR floor multifunction logs every job by time, machine, and queue ID. There it was. A 2:06 a.m. image job with my personnel packet number tagged in the metadata. I didn't freak out. I filed it. I submitted a formal disclosure request through records. Policy gives every employee the right to see who accessed what and when. Most people don't bother. I do. I phrased it dull and tight. Please confirm revision and access history for personnel packet 18B, Teller. I always asked in writing, and I kept copies of the envelope receipts. Over the next 9 days, that time kept repeating, 2:05, 2:06, 2:07 a.m., always before sunrise, always hitting places most people don't visit without clearance. Badge logs showed access to the mezzanine between those minutes. That's a floor we don't even use for regular ops. It's mostly old files, prototype storage, HR backups. Printer logs from the same machine pinged every time with jobs tagged personnel privileged. The packet IDs bounced between a few names. Mine came up twice. Then my emergency contact record changed. First, it was wiped. My ex-wife's number replaced with a blank field. Then, less than a day later, it was reversed. Same timestamp range, 2:06 a.m. I didn't change it. Nobody in ops can even access that layer of the system. That's when I started the full mirror process. Every document I touched, I copied. Photographed the header with a wall clock and a paper calendar in frame. I wrote the day by hand in black Sharpie and taped it on the file. Then it went into a sealed folder in a banker's box in my off-site storage. Not digital, not shareable. Physical paper, under lock. I found a conduct summary with my name on it. I'd never seen it before. One paragraph mentioned behavioral tone concerns. I know every inch of our file formats. The header on that doc used a kerning layout we abandoned in early 2020. Someone dusted off a dead template. I didn't call anyone out. I just made more copies. Nolan, my manager, started getting weird, not hostile, just quiet. He stopped stopping by. One morning, he walked a full loop around the floor just to avoid passing my cube. That's not paranoia. That's a man who's seen a spreadsheet he's not supposed to comment on. Still, I brought donuts to the dock every Monday. Let the drivers think I was the same guy who double-checked trailer numbers and stocked the binder tabs. At home, I started using sticky notes again, bright yellow ones with thick dates and red arrows. I'd tape them right next to each printed copy. My son once asked why I didn't just use a spreadsheet. I told him, because paper doesn't auto-update itself at 2 a.m. That was my rule now. Anything digital got doubled, anything suspect got time-stamped, and anything involving HR after midnight got its own envelope. So, when I saw that exact timestamp, 2:06 a.m., on the side of that black box, it wasn't a mystery anymore. It was a thread. Someone thought the night shift left no footprints, but I was already sweeping the trail. I kept it low-tech on purpose. Chain of custody forms, mailroom stamp sheets, photos of headers with wall clocks and dated post-its. The kind of detail that makes lawyers lean forward without knowing why. First stop, facilities. I asked for a maintenance report on the mezzanine door. Nothing dramatic. Just said we were updating building access logs. The tech sent me his last inspection report, right there in his own handwriting. Intermittent strike failure between 2:05 and 2:15 a.m. Perfect window. Next, I went to security and asked for a rolling 60-day badge summary. Doing a load audit, I told them, want to make sure our storm prep reports match physical presence. I've helped them reconcile blips during snow delays before, so they handed it over without blinking. Every 2:06 a.m. entry pinged, always tied to mezzanine access or HR floor. Then I dug into the copier service logs. Our HR multifunction was a beast, model from 2015. Still had fax capability nobody used. Service reports told the story better than people ever could. Toner refills on weekends. Restart logs at 2:03, 2:06, 2:11 a.m., 3 separate Saturdays. Each job carried the project tag, personnel privileged. One entry referenced my packet by internal code. Another was linked to a director who retired in April, 61 years old, 2 months from vesting a final equity block. When I requested my own personnel file again, they sent a redacted PDF. I printed it, held it up, and just stared. Right there, a fresh sentence. Employee continues to demonstrate occasional tone misalignment. Not even real language, just word salad crafted by someone trying to make HR sound like Homeland Security. The signature block had a jagged box around the date, like it had been lifted and slapped in from another file. Alone, it was sloppy. But with the midnight printer logs and the broken mezzanine strike, it stank. Then Nolan caught me near the vending machine. His voice was quiet. "You should keep your head down for a while," he said, looking past me like someone might see him talking to me. "It'll blow over." I looked at him and said nothing. Let the silence say what I didn't feel like wasting energy on. Because here's the truth. It never blows over. Not unless you give it air. That night I mailed a certified letter, green card and all, straight to the board's compliance contact, listed in the ethics booklet. Real stamp. Return receipt. Not digital. Inside, copies of the altered headers, time logs from the HR printer, badge entries from the mezzanine, and one neat chart showing 4 women over 45 who had their roles restructured right before equity cliffs. I didn't make a speech, didn't put it on company chat. I just laid out what was already there, documented, time-stamped, and cross-referenced. Set the table like any good scheduler. I even labeled it Preservation Notice, Ledger Chain. They could either look or not, but the paper trail wouldn't blink. This wasn't about payback. It was about putting light on rot and watching who tried to pretend it wasn't there. Kane came back that same afternoon. No entourage, no PR shield. His tie was off-center, and his collar looked like he'd wrestled with it in the elevator. He walked into my cube with a printout of my email in one hand and his jaw already clenched. "Where did this come from?" he asked. I didn't even swivel my chair. Records, mailroom, security, same places you'd ask a jury to trust. His nostrils flared. You're not authorized to collect some of these logs. I'm authorized to request my own file and retain clean copies of anything that's handed to me, I said. That's straight from the handbook. I stood up and slid 3 stacks across my desk like chips at a poker table. Badge entries around 2:06 a.m., I said, tapping the first. Copier logs from the HR multifunction tagged with my personnel packet ID. I tapped the second. And here's the kicker. My file revision showing tone language shifts with version dates and header inconsistencies. The third stack. He didn't touch them, just stared, like each page might burn him. Then he asked, "What do you want?" I kept my voice steady. "Nothing. I'm following procedure. Report up, store clean records, escalate concerns without disruption." He looked at the black box sitting behind me, still sealed in its time-stamped envelope. His jaw moved a little, like he was chewing air. Then, quieter than I expected, he muttered, "You weren't supposed to notice." I reached into my drawer and slid out a sealed red envelope, dropped it on the desk in front of him. "List of anomalies," I said, "with initials. Also includes template version ID and approval boxes from legacy personnel files." He picked it up without opening it. "The last line points to one initiation from the executive floor network," I added. I didn't accuse him. I didn't need to. He read the envelope label, and the color drained from his face like someone cracked a window in January. He left without another word. No threat, no spin, no box. I logged his visit in my notebook. Same as always. Time, date, who saw him. Daisy at reception had watched him walk in, with his mouth set like a courtroom sketch. Then I pulled up the carrier schedule and started blocking freight for next week. Because routine calms the air when everything else smells like smoke. After lunch, a calendar block popped up. Leadership debrief, room B7. I wasn't on the invite. Nolan was, legal was, HR was. I didn't crash it. I sent one more packet. This one went to outside legal, our official counsel listed on the ethics wall poster in the break room. The subject line was clean. Preservation notice, personnel edits. No adjectives, no drama, just 8 pages of dates, initials, and logs they couldn't ignore. Monday morning felt like a funeral with no casket. Phones rang less. People typed softer. HR's director, Renee Calder, was working remotely. Her door was closed, lights off. Names stripped from the internal phone tree by noon. Compliance Chief Sonia Kincaid had an auto-reply set. No return date, no deputy listed, just a vague, currently unavailable, and a signature line that used to say Vice President, but now just said Sonia. Then legal dropped the corporate fire blanket, a one-liner on the intranet. "We are aware of concerns. A review is underway." That sentence has cleaned up more corporate crime scenes than bleach. By mid-morning, quiet thank yous started trickling in. A junior counsel mouthed nice at me in the elevator. VP of Risk forwarded a vague request for my document control workflow. No one said why. Everyone already knew. I went back into records, sat at one of the public terminals, and searched departure memos from the last 18 months. I wasn't looking for gossip. I was looking at spacing, header font, alignment quirks, top bar shadows. I cross-checked 10. 7 of them had the same crooked spacing pattern we'd last used in an HR template that was retired in 2020. Every one of those 7 employees had something else in common. They were over 44 years old. 6 were women. 5 had equity vesting windows between 45 and 70 days after their exits. Those plan changes weren't clean. They were calculated. I ran the math conservatively. Skipping that equity saved the company at least $1.2 million. Maybe more if they shuffled that money into end-of-quarter bonus pools. I cross-checked toner orders for the HR copier. Toner levels dropped like a rock. Always over weekends. Always for that one machine. 3 reorders happened on Sundays. Nobody prints that much HR documentation unless they're busy rewriting people's lives. Then I saw it. Nolan's initials tagged next to a set of copier authorization logs. The system listed packet finalizations. One of them was mine, dated 29 days before the black box showed up. That line he gave me, "Don't open that," wasn't loyalty. It was guilt. He couldn't stop what was happening, but he left me a breadcrumb and hoped I'd follow it before the wolves closed in. I didn't confront him. I didn't need the drama. I filed the logs, marked the date, and placed his initials where they belonged, on paper, not in conversation. By 3 p.m., Sonia's Slack went dead. Her name stopped showing up in Teams. By 5, Renee's LinkedIn profile was gone. That's corporate code for told to spend time with family. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I walked the floor like usual, nodded to the shipping crew, fixed a dock timing error in the Friday loadout, and kept my voice steady while the rumor mill churned like a washing machine on spin cycle. The walls were tightening. People were whispering louder. But I wasn't done yet. The old prototype lab was barely used anymore. Glass walls, yellowed whiteboards, a dead 3D printer with a tag that read, "Out of calibration since 2019. Nobody walked through it unless they were lost, or wanted privacy. I asked Leah Morton, the board's governance liaison, for 10 minutes. No calendar invite, no paper trail. Just a message through the ethics line asking for direct contact in accordance with Section 14.B of the handbook. She met me there after 5. Coat damp from the rain, no makeup, no small talk. 10 minutes, she said. Go. I handed her a red flash drive and a folded piece of paper. The list had dates, printer cues, badge swipes, copier restarts, and a column for template ID tags with the spacing error I'd traced to old HR macro files. I'm not an engineer, I told her, so I didn't chase system code. This is all paper, headers, stamps, cues, and timing overlaps. She opened the paper and scanned it while I talked. No nodding, just reading. Targets are mostly women over 45, I said. Equity windows line up tight, within 45 to 60 days of each departure. Mine scheduled for December 6th. She didn't interrupt. I didn't slow down. There's one job kicked off from the executive floor, I added. All the others routed through HR multifunction printers between 2:05 and 2:10 a.m. She folded the paper again and held the flash drive in her palm like a tool. Not like evidence, like something she might use. What do you want? She asked. I already did it, I said. Preservation notices, dated envelopes, chain of custody forms on every document, everything clean. This is just the part they can't quietly unglue. She didn't flinch, just slipped the flash drive into her coat pocket. There's also a message, I said. I overheard Sonia asking someone if they could run the old template trick on me before my vesting date hit. Leah gave me a look that wasn't surprise, just confirmation. They always think internal chat is private, she muttered. Then she turned and left. No handshake, no fake sympathy, no, we'll be in touch. I stayed in that dusty room for another 10 minutes, looked around at the half-wiped formulas and half-built gear left to rot after budgets changed. I wasn't angry. I wasn't proud. I was just still. Still standing, still watching, still tracking every piece of paper that might go missing when the lights flickered. At 8:11 on a Wednesday, 5 auditors from an outside firm checked in at reception. Visitor badges, no smiles, legal pads tucked like scalpels. Nobody offered them cupcakes. The air changed fast. Conversations dropped mid-sentence. People walked like they were counting each step. One by one, employees got called into side rooms, glass doors, folding chairs, and chilled water bottles they didn't drink. They came out dazed, like someone had projected their browser history on the wall behind them. By lunch, the board posted a statement on the intranet, a digital siren dressed in neutral clothes. We take these allegations seriously. A full review is underway. We are committed to transparency, the kind of sentence written by 4 lawyers in a panic. Renee's email bounced first. This mailbox is no longer accepting messages. Her calendar disappeared. No handoff, no delegate. You don't wipe an exec's inbox unless someone's boxing their nameplate. By 4:20, corporate comms released a follow-up. Sonia Kincaid has resigned for personal reasons. Right. Personal reasons with a tracking number and a courier. The floodgates cracked in the afternoon. A former manager from compliance cornered me in the copy room, said she was coached out at 49 after a mystery review. A program lead from ops said she was flagged for tone after 12 clean years. It wasn't even a warning, she said, just a change in status and a farewell memo I didn't write. I didn't play hero. Didn't say much, just nodded, listened, and filed it all in my head under the same heading. Patterns aren't numbers, they're people. By late afternoon, legal stopped copying Kane on group threads. He wasn't removed, just slowly faded out of the loop. InfoSec plastered badge logs and VPN access maps across their conference room windows, like they were tracking a serial thief. One of the auditors, older guy, sharp suit, no smile, walked over to me while I was adjusting doc schedules. He flipped open his notepad and asked, "Who reassigned ownership of the 2020 HR template, and when did that version hit production?" I didn't blink. "Week 3 of the 4th quarter," I said. "Check the copier logs from October 8th, tagged with admin key 71. He wrote it down without follow-up. By 4:40, the comms director slid into my email inbox with a request. "Would you be open to consulting on the language for our ethics update?" I replied, "I can provide dates and documented sequence. Language isn't my department." Later that night, I checked the copier logs from HR. The 2:06 a.m. war print jobs were gone, like a string had been cut. Nobody prints scandal when the flashlights come out. The black box, the one from Appreciation Day, was still sealed, stamped, and locked in the records cabinet, signed out under my name and Daisy's initials. I didn't want it touched. It wasn't a trophy. It was a witness. Around 8, my son called. "You okay, Dad?" "Yeah," I said, "just doing the boring parts right." He laughed. "That's your thing." "It is." Friday morning started with a phone call I didn't expect. Unknown number, local area code. I picked up. "Ron Teller," the voice said. "This is Gavin Alton. I've been asked to step in as interim CEO. His tone didn't bother with spin. "We've reviewed the findings. You were instrumental." I didn't say anything, just waited. "We want to retain you as a senior advisor," he continued. "You'd report directly to me, help us build the guardrails moving forward." I turned my chair and looked out the window. Same view as always, brick wall across the alley, a ductless vent rattling in the breeze. I thought about the black box still sitting in records, sealed and silent, waiting for me to do something stupid with it. "I appreciate the call," I said, "but I'm not available." He paused just long enough to prove he'd expected that. "If you reconsider—" "I won't," I said flat. No emotion, just a closing bracket. This wasn't revenge, it was arithmetic. They tried to write me off to save 50-something grand in vested equity. Now they wanted me to climb into the attic and fix the wiring. I wasn't angry. I was done doing cleanup for free. 2 hours later, I walked a small potted plant into a third-floor office across the street. I had signed the lease that morning, month to month, short term, no pressure. The glass door had one name on it, Ledger Rail Advisory. No ribbon cutting, no welcome post. Just one second-hand desk I hauled in myself, a coffee maker, and a server tower I'd put together over the years for document scanning and retention. I printed out a white sheet of paper with 3 words and taped it in the window, truth with a timestamp. First client came from a referral through a compliance listserv. Paid a modest retainer, brought in a banker's box of shredded timelines and half-buried emails. I didn't promise a miracle. I offered a workflow. Second client came through word of mouth, small nonprofit, same mess in different clothes. I told everyone the same thing. Show me your paper, and I'll show you where it leaks. I didn't post on LinkedIn, didn't gloat. I didn't even call my son that day. I poured a mug of coffee, pulled up a folder tree, and started building out naming conventions like a quiet librarian with a badge log. Winds don't shout. They sit upright, sort the folders, and wait for the next broken record to play. From my window, I could see Rydell's lobby across the street. The balloons were gone, their reception desk looked empty. And the glass, somehow, looked cleaner. Panic does that. The audit stopped being a storm and turned into a slow drip. Interviews, document requests, and long pauses filled with people choosing their next sentence like it might get carved into stone. The whispers that used to follow me down the hallway stopped. Now people came to my door and asked for copies. Legal forwarded me an internal chat they'd pulled from archive retention. The subject line read, "Packet Finalizations." The thread showed Sonia asking Nolan, "Can we still run the old template on Teller before his December 6th vest?" Renee responded with a thumbs-up emoji and a line that said, "If it's still cached, yes." Timestamp, 2:06 a.m., exactly 2 days before the black box landed on my desk. I read it twice, filed it clean, labeled and time-stamped. Then I sent a 2-line note to Leah Morton. Preservation confirmed. Additional chats received. No action requested at this time. That was enough. 2 days later, a woman from finance, late 40s, calm voice, nervous hands, knocked on my office door. "They did this to me last year," she said. I didn't promise anything. I showed her how to request her file under Section 7.2 of the employment policy. I gave her a sample language doc and told her to submit it in hard copy, not email. She nodded, said thanks, walked out lighter. I grabbed lunch with Daisy that Friday. She said the building felt different. Lighter, she told me, unwrapping a turkey sandwich. Fewer fake laughs, more eye contact. Even Nolan stopped avoiding the coffee machine. Speaking of Nolan, he emailed me an apology, full paragraph. Regret, responsibility, acknowledgement of his initials on the copier logs. I didn't reply. I printed it, stapled it behind his personnel document authorizations, and filed it in my cabinet. No reaction, just a record. A friend from the shipping dock swung by after hours, said the night guard had started working doubles. Midnight badge swipes had dropped to 0. Slow nights again, he told me. About time. Alton sent me a 2-line follow-up from his interim account. Appreciate your integrity. Respect for the process is critical. That was fine. I respect processes that leave footprints. I don't need applause for doing the boring parts right. My son texted around 8. Proud of you, Dad, I wrote back. Didn't do anything special, just didn't let him tarp over the mess. Saturday morning, someone from comms walked across the street. Didn't email, didn't knock first. Just handed me a thick envelope, nodded once, and turned back. I signed the receipt, logged it, stamped the corner. Before I even peeled the flap, I pulled a pen from my drawer and wrote the date on the upper left. Same habit, same angle. That habit saved me more than once. Inside the envelope was another black box, same size, same matte finish, same weight as the first. No tricks, no timestamp etched into the plastic this time. Just a plain white note taped to the top with 3 words written in block letters. We should have listened. I carried it to my desk and opened it slowly. No photo, no USB stick, no trap. Just a signed retainer agreement from Rydell Components. 6 figures for a first quarter oversight engagement. Compliance structure, records audits, process rebuilding. The kind of contract they use to hand off to white shoe firms with golf memberships. My eyes didn't pop. I just breathed. I printed my acceptance on my own letterhead. Ledger Rail Advisory. Signed in blue ink. Stamped the date in the upper corner like I always do. Then, I walked the folder across the street and handed it back at the same front desk where the first box landed months ago. Daisy smiled when she saw me. Good day? Solid, I said. No victory lap. No grin. No speech about what came next. I kept my copy and filed theirs, time-stamped, sealed, and logged. That's how it works. You make the truth heavier than the lie, and you let gravity do the rest. Word got around fast. Renee moved on. Sonia's badge was deactivated. Nolan was helping with transition planning. Corporate euphemisms, they sound soft, but they sting louder than anything I could have said out loud. The audit wasn't over. It wouldn't be for months. There'd be more rounds of interviews, follow-ups, memory games. People would rewrite their roles in the story, pretend they always knew something was off. That's fine. I wasn't writing a hero story. I was building a file that wouldn't buckle when someone leaned on it. That night, I didn't celebrate. I made dinner, watched the ball game, answered a call from my son. You feel vindicated? He asked. I stirred my coffee and said, Nah, just feels like I finally put the right label on the right box. The next morning, I stood at my window with the sun breaking through the clouds and watched the light hit Rydell's glass doors. Same building, same facade, but something underneath had shifted. I could feel it from across the street. They tried to vanish me between 2:05 and 2:15 a.m. on a copier that squeaks when the rollers are cold. Instead, I became the guy across the street who writes things down. That's enough for me. No fireworks, no revenge parade, just a clean ledger, a time-stamped envelope, and a company that now has to think twice before it runs the night shift on people's lives again. Quick ask, honestly, if your company pulled a midnight paper trick, document first or confront.